Derek Carr is known as like the comeback guy, right? He's leads the league in fourth quarter and overtime comebacks. He's done it so well. Obviously, a lot of practice because he's been behind in so many games, just how the Raiders have played the 9 seasons he was a Raider. So how does he compare to Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo, according to this metric, which we'll get to in a second, better than Derek Carr. 12 out of 24 fourth quarter comebacks against opponents. Derek Carr, 33 of 75. So Derek Carr not only has 3 times as many, been in a situation 3 times as often as Jimmy G. His percentage is about 6% low. Now, they're both really high up there. Jimmy G is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th on this list. Carr is 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th on this list.
Take your shoes off. You got to.
All right, start count.
Good thing it wasn't over 21.
18th on this list, and this is since what year?
1994.
1994, right? So since 1994, Derek Carr's the 18th best, Jimmy Garoppolo 8th best. So they're both pretty damn good. This is my issue, and you probably can't read it on the super fine print, but the way they came up with this number is they took any single time the quarterback has the ball at least once in the fourth quarter and overtime, and your team and his team was down or tied or down at least one score or tied in the fourth quarter and overtime. So I don't like the metric they used for this because like you could be down 13-14 going into the fourth quarter and then lose 38-35 and it would be a loss on this game-winning drive metric, right? So there's still some value here, but it's not a definitive stat, right? There's still
it's a good talking point.
It's a good talking. It's basically how are you in the fourth quarter in a close game? Basically, that's more what this is. Like how are your fourth quarter stats in a close game? On this one. So the good news is Jimmy G's batting 500. If he's down or tied in the fourth quarter or overtime, he wins half the time. Again, the problem is he's always played with an amazing defense. So a whole quarter that's a lot of time to be like, put it on the quarterback. So
what I haven't looked at is this is something that is lost on a lot of people. How Jimmy G got to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. San Francisco was 0-6 when they traded for Jimmy G. And they ended up he didn't play the first couple of weeks he was there. They started the season 0-8.
Yeah.
So how good was that defense? Because once he started playing the last half of the season, he went 5-3 mm-hmm. with that same team that went 0-8. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like hit the pause button on that because you say, oh, well, it's because he had this great defenses that he won games. Well, he went to an 0-8 team and he ended up 5-3 with an 0-8 team without him. Also, until last season, the Niners couldn't win if Jimmy G wasn't playing.
There's no better, I think, stat guy than Jimmy G string. Like his win losses is through the roof great. When he's not in there, great. It's just everything else. It's like you're right. Like everything you said about him was true. He had that 13, like the one season he was totally healthy all season. They go 13-3, amazing year, right? And yet the Niners were like happy to let him go. They're like, you're out of here. And when Brock Purdy took over last season, they had almost identical stats. Mr. Irrelevant had almost exactly the same stats as Jimmy G with playing almost exactly the same amount of games last season. Almost exactly the same passing percentage, almost the exact same yards per attempt. Jimmy G had a little bit better touchdown interception ratio, and Brock Purdy had a better like taking sacks ratio, which isn't all that surprising, right? Yeah. Jimmy G got sacked 18 times, Brock Purdy got sacked 11. So it's like these numbers always make Jimmy G look great, but the Niners were just like so ready and easily let him go. Mm-hmm. So it's like the tangible versus intangibles are like so drastic with him.
Yeah, well, it's the intangibles because of this. You got Brock Purdy who comes in there and he plays like Jimmy G, right? He's within the offense, but he does maybe throw a little bit more on the outside than Jimmy G does. But he's mainly over the middle type of guy, up the seams type of guy. He's younger, doesn't have an injury history, and he's cheaper. So if you bring a guy in, look, I think this is more a question of Brock Purdy being that good than Jimmy G not being that good, because they want Brock Purdy over the guy they traded 3 first-round picks for, Trey Lance. So it's not like it's just any old guy off the street coming in here and taking Jimmy G's job. It's, hey, Jimmy G's older. He has an injury history. He's more expensive. We have this young kid who we're not paying shit to, right?
How bad does Trey Lance have to be when you're in like the most forgiving quarterback system in football? Jesus, and they gave up everything for Trey Lance, and he like can barely find the field. Like seriously, ask yourself, like, if you had to pay quarterback in the NFL right now, like 40, what are you, 44?
45.
45-year-old Juan Soto. They're like, all right, you have to play quarterback in the NFL right now. Which team? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I want you to answer honestly. Which team would you play quarterback for?
I would probably play either for the Niners or for the Eagles.
I would say for sure Niners, because you don't have to. In Eagles, you kind of have to run, and in Niners, it's just dump it off to your stars, right? Like if I had to play in any quarterback, like I'm saying with, I think it's a no-brainer. Like you play with the Niners, and so I think, and that's the other part of this with Jimmy G's like uncanny, unbelievable numbers, win-loss rate, and stats. It's like it's the most forgiving place to be in the NFL if you're a quarterback.
It is definitely, but the thing is before, like I said, before Purdy, unless you're Trey Lance, but before Purdy, the other guys playing quarterback weren't winning. Now, does that mean like, okay, these were all backups and they weren't that good, and Jimmy G is that much better than those guys? It's very possible. It's very possible Brock Purdy is that good, and he's on par or in the same realm as a Jimmy G-esque kind of guy. We just haven't seen him because he's a rookie. And that's possible as well. But to say, well, he's in a very forgiving system, that's why he won a lot. When they didn't have him, they didn't win. So it's not that forgiving.
It's just the more and more stats you dig into with Jimmy G, the better and better he looks, right? Just even like he's fourth quarter stats, the comeback stats, like that was Derek Carr's calling card, right? Like he's Mr. Comeback. Statistically, at least just in fourth quarter, Jimmy G's even better than him.
Yeah,
in that element, right? No. So it's like the numbers keep adding, the stats just back up Jimmy G so hard. Everything around him, the intangibles, coaches not wanting him, moving on, like they'd rather have Mr. Irrelevant, like all these other things.
Injuries.
Like the injuries part.
Well,
Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.